Righty. And we are there. Let me double check. As always, that we are live. Yes, it says we're live. So we're live on the Concrete Team page and we're live on my personal page, Joellian. You're more than welcome to share that. And if you want to share it with Stockton Stands with Minneapolis, in that group, that would be awesome as well. Um, so, Cameron, I want to make sure that I don't know if you and I are friends on social media, but you are friends with Joellian. And my page is public, so you're more than welcome to share it as well.
Most definitely.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna just kind of get started. This is going to be another brief. This is a brief tap in today, because what we wanted to do was to do a part two, a follow up on the ADEM elections. What the heck? What the hell is ADEM? um, because a lot of folks apparently don't know and don't know much about it. I did apply and register. I'm going to share that story with y'all in at the appropriate time. What I am going to do is turn it over to my friend and compadre um, in organizing, Joellian Johnson. Um, because he wanted to make sure that we came back on today, and that we talked a little bit more, just about it and what it is and why it's important to the community. So, Joellian, the floor is yours.
Yeah, if no one tuned in yesterday, ADEMS is one of the crucial elections that doesn't get talked about as much. Can y'all hear me now?
I just want you to use your outside voice. Well,
um, but yeah, these are kind of the delegates that we choose to kind of put out what the platform is, who they're endorsing. And so in an instance, this is the most direct way to kind of control the policies that we want to see, a part of the representation that we want. I know a lot of times the complaint is that we don't see our voices heard. And so these are one of those important times where we're actually able to get involved, and make that direct difference in terms of who we elect, especially for the county. So if anyone isn't familiar, there's 7 self-identified females who will be elected, as well as 7 self-identified males, who will go off and basically cross-sect with other county regions or assembly districts across the state, who will then kind of elect people to go to the DNC, which will kind of further our state's advocacy as well. So um, with us today is Cameron, who is one of the candidates. I know that we previously had a few on yesterday, and so we wanted to make sure that we try to get as much representation, so that you guys can have informed votes, especially knowing that in the time of social movements and a pandemic, these are one of the times that we really want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that our votes count. So, if you would like to start off and introduce yourself, Rudy.
Of course. First off, I want to thank you both for having me. This is a really important issue that, as Democrats and, just as residents of California, we should really take this seriously. I grew up in Stockton. I now live in Tracy. And, whatever happens with the Democratic Party, as we know, we have a majority in the state of California. And we need people who are here for the people, not for special interests. Someone who's actually going to speak for the poor, the people who are in poverty, and especially now during this pandemic, someone who's going to talk about the rising debt that we're all seeing through these moratoriums that did not stop the debt collection that individuals are collecting, but just puts it off until later on. So that's where I'm coming from. And once again, thank you for having me, the both of you.
Cameron, I have a question that from one of the folks that is watching. How do you become a candidate for something such as ADEM?
So I actually found out from a friend who's running on the opposite slate. So basically, the way you do it is after the general election, kind of like what we just said with the presidential election, the Democratic Party will host these ADEM elections, and you can go to their website, at least here in California, and you can sign up if you are a registered Democrat. you can sign up to run in this election. There's a $30 fee for signing up, but you can get a waiver as well. And that's basically how it's kind of like how you actually signed up for a ballot. It's just a different type of application. Just instead of it being for a ballot, it's for being put on to the election itself.
So making sure that answer is this something that is well known? I mean, like, or is this isn't new, right? Look, I asked if it's well known and seen the look on Joellian's face. Joellian, is this something that is well known or no?
It's definitely not well known. And I think a lot of people from either side, whether you're wanting to run as a candidate or whether you're wanting to vote itself, not many people know about it. And I think people kind of get caught up in like, oh, the general election, and then that's where everything ends. And you know, we don't do a good job enough, especially given public education, trying to say that, hey, there are more opportunities to get involved, to change what the platforms are. Especially when I walk into meetings, I know for sure that, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, when we walked into meetings and we mentioned it, it was really just like a questionable toss of like, oh, what is this? Like it's the first thing like your ear takes up because you're like, oh, there's something new. So I don't think that this is well off the way that it should be. And I don't think a lot of people kind of recognize the importance of it either.
Yeah, if I may touch on that, this is absolutely something that isn't well spoken about. I mean, I remember going to the meeting in which you all were in the People's Assembly, and no one knew what we were talking about when it came to ADEM. And that's not just your group. I mean, this is just about every Democrat, in my opinion, who's not really into the super state part of the politics. And you know, I not to say anything mean about our party, but I could see why they maybe don't put it out there. And it's because, we have a party where there are a small percentage of people who control a big portion of it, especially here in California. And, it's in their best interest to have people who know about ADEM that support them instead of really expanding that upon the general populace. Because when it comes down to it, when we send people to the national convention, a third of them are already sitting politicians, another third are people that they've picked. And then another group, which is us, a third being the ADEM representatives, go there. But one of the biggest problems is we see established Democrats already, influencing these elections by having people that they feel best represent their ideas run. So I would say that it's a failure of the system, of the Democratic Party's system. We're supposed to be the party of the people, but we don't open it up for the people to actually influence our party, at least in my opinion.
So when this is something then that is historical. It's been present there for quite a while. And I'm seeing that you have a lot of young folks that are representing. And so, Cameron, why do you feel like it's important for someone that is a young adult to be present for something such as this?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. And I would say that it's important to see more young people in politics because we see it's one of the largest voter bases that is apathetic towards voting in general and towards politics. I mean, we see now, look at our Congress in the Democrats in Congress. The majority of them have been in there for over 20 years. Not to say that that's a bad thing. It's just I'm someone who believes that we need new ideas and re-innovated ideas about how to approach things. And maybe in the current system where we see an older base being the majority, maybe that's why we haven't seen the progression that we would like. Now, that's not to say that older people can't be a part of this because, I'm someone who supports Bernie Sanders and Dr. Cornel West and all those people who have great ideas that are really resonating with people in my age group. But at the end of the day, I would say it's about rejuvenating the Democratic Party and its policies that, in my opinion, would probably be better and get us elected more people into, say, Congress or our state and our state assembly and state senate, not just here, but other places as well.
So can you or Joellen, can you tell me what are some of the qualifications or the requirements in order for someone to qualify, to run for one of these spots?
Yeah, if I may, Joellen.
Mhm.
And this is the only qualification. You need to have been a Democrat during the last election that happened. So for like us, it was the national election, the presidential election. As long as you were a registered Democrat during that time, you are allowed to run as an ADEM delegate or a part of their e-board, which is just kind of like one step up from just a regular delegate role. So that's all. That's the only qualification you need. You had to have been a Democrat prior to being involved into the ADEM election itself. And I think that speaks even more volume as to how wrong it is that we don't have the Democratic Party, coming out and really advertising this in our communities. If that's all the qualification that's needed, why don't we have more ads? Why don't we have more Democratic officials coming out and say, run for these offices? If it's that easy, why not? And, I think it goes back to what I said earlier about, there's power that is pretty much put into one group's hands, and they maybe don't want to, take their hands off of that power. They don't want to give it to the people.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I really appreciate that. Joellen, were you going to ask another question?
Yeah. So I mean, some of the kind of issues that, at least for our generation, right? You see big things that come up in terms of education, like obviously with the debt. You see things like with DACA, with people, how we handle our border control. So, in terms of how we now establish those ideals or policies within a democratic, platform, especially in California, knowing that we're one of the most heavy with immigration or people who are representative of color, what ideals do you imagine the Democratic Party embracing over the next 4 years?
Well, I truly see our party moving in a direction that is truly going to make it a party of the people. More and more we're seeing that the Democratic Party is becoming that bastion of hope for say immigrants, for people who aren't exactly in the political system. So I would say with the rising of young folks who really do believe in these ideas and want to bring them to the forefront. In my opinion, I call them basically the ideas of what my parents taught me when I was growing up. Be good to others. There's no need to say anything bad if you ain't got anything good to say at all. It's just the common sense ideas that are bringing the Democratic Party into the 21st century and all that, including everybody, not just the few of us. So I would say that's what the future holds for us. It's being an actual party of everybody and not just of the powerful few. So yeah.
And then just following up on that one, so more directly toward the San Joaquin County, what issues do you feel like are prevalent that you feel that would equate to you advocating at a higher level?
Well, there are so many, and I kind of put them in this more obscure, bold area. So I say labor, families, small business, and social justice movements. Those are very broad terms, but these are all terms that I hold very dear to myself. And just to go specifically into one thing, I talked about earlier. Let's talk about how we have a moratorium on say like rent and all these things. you know, Currently there's a huge amount of Americans that are out of work. I mean, a majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And all we did was, stop rent for this pandemic and all that. But once this is over, people are going to have insane amounts of debt put on them that they'll have to pay pretty soon, and they're not able to. I mean, people are out here crying for the $2,000 because we're in need. So one of the things that I would like to focus on, especially for our state where we have some of the highest taxes and some of the most people in poverty, terrible homelessness, we need to really get ahead of this and start talking about debt cancellation or debt repayment, because people aren't going to be able to really carry this load, and I'm surprised no one else has talked about it. We're going to see a whole lot more homeless people and a whole lot more people in poverty when this pandemic is over, just over the amount of debt that people have accrued over this time. So I'd say let's take the forward step as a state and, say, you know what? We can't say that a pandemic's going to happen and we can't allow people to, be given this huge burden at the same time. So let's take some of that burden off of them. So I'm advocating that we have a system in which the state will pay for some, if not all, of the debt that Californians receive during this time, that they won't be able to pay after this for sure, especially with how much we get paid at a minimum wage to begin with. And let me tell you, here's another thing, we advocate for $15. In California, it should be $18. I've worked with a $15 minimum wage at Amazon, and let me tell you, here in Tracy, that's not enough to get you an apartment, or it gets you just by with about $50 after for food. So
Right.
those are some of the biggest issues that I see. But also, let's talk about the social movements. We lived during this time of Black Lives Matter, and America finally, I would say, took note of the sheer amount of inequality that we see within our societies. Even here in California, we consider ourselves a very liberal state, but I mean, we also saw terrible things like lynchings happening in this state. I personally would advocate for more laws protecting people based off of their protected characteristics, but also advocating for more policy that would open up the doors of our state house, open up the doors of Washington, D.C. to these social movements. I think when anytime we're discussing policy involving such ideas in social movements, we should require these people to come in and testify as experts, so everyone gets an idea of what exactly is going on, how it can be solved, and ultimately bring about better ideas and more ideas that we don't have currently. And
Mm.
yeah, if there's anything else I can go in more on, I definitely will. I could talk for a long time about these issues for sure.
No, and I appreciate that because you are raising some really, really important. You're raising up some important issues and topics that we don't talk about a lot. Now that we've come out of these major elections, and the transitioning and all the things that have taken place. As a community organizer, yes, I'm completely leaned in, especially with housing, the insurmountable amount of evictions, the marginalized, and those that are on the outliers of the margins. That are being pushed out. Even with some of the things that we're putting in place, it's not going to catch all. And so you're raising some real significant stuff um, that is important. And so it's important that we have individuals um, that are in these spaces, in these positions to actually represent us, on the ground level in the way that you guys do. I need to do a little bit more digging and research in regard to, ADM and what it does, because this is the first year, and I'm ashamed to say it. I am ashamed to say that this is the first year that I've known anything about it.
And if I may, you shouldn't be the one ashamed. The Democratic Party should be ashamed for not educating you and all of our fellow Democrats on these elections. We can't say we're the party of the people if we don't first give the people a seat at the table to say what we want.
Well, well, I received that. Shoot, yeah, shoot. They should have said something, because
Mhm.
if I'd have known, I absolutely would have been prepared. So, look, saying that, let me tell you about my horrible story. I went last night because, I got these wonderful young folks that I organized with that was like, Elder Tony, you need to, register and vote. And so I registered. I went to register last night, and I promise you, I could not for the life of me register. It kept saying that I wasn't, that my information was not valid. And I was extremely frustrated because I went to check my voter registration, and of course, I was registered. So I ended up sending an email to them. I did get some instructions and support because, I'm surrounded by you wonderful young folks. However, how many other people don't have, the support and the surrounding of all of you all to make sure that, their ballot is going to be issued and that they're counted. So this thing, I think that it was a hot mess. Let me just not be my politically correct self. I think it's a hot mess. I think that they did a piss poor job at getting information out into the community. I feel like we probably wouldn't have known nothing to some degree if it hadn't been like people like yourselves showing up in my space that I organized and saying, "Hey, this is happening." So one, I want to commend you for that. Keep showing up in those spaces. Keep raising awareness in order to make change.
Thank you so much. And that's also one of the main points of why I'm running. It's because I want to finally get voices into this, into these committees, into our specific district, so we can get more voices out there. We've been silent for too long. And this isn't to bash on anyone else who served or anything, but I've heard a lot of talk about how, like, oh, the fight's not over, we still have stuff to do. Well, how can we finish a fight? How can we start a fight, if you will, if we don't have our supporters there to back us up and to do all this? I'm not someone who believes in representation of myself. I believe in representing the people. So if the people want something, then it should be the duty of all representatives to scream at the top of their lungs that this is what our people want. And I feel as if, for a few people who've been in it for a year now already, or 2 years, excuse me, they haven't done that. And I think it's time that we hold our people accountable, especially on this level, truly the one level in which we get a chance to influence our party. They need to be held accountable, and they need to come to all these groups. There's no reason why we should have a party in our district that is uneducated on this election. Like I said, I see that as a failure of the Democratic Party, and I do see that as a failure of people who have been in it already and haven't done, if you will, the extra mile to go ahead and actually tell people about it.
And Cameron, I want to say this, and then I want to bring Joel in, in his voice. I want to say that one, what you're saying is true, and I respect the heck out of it and appreciate it. Two, privilege sometimes does not afford you the visibility of knowing what it is that other people need, because privilege is privilege. Sometimes you can't know what you don't have, or you can't know what others need because of where it is that you're postured and seated. So that's why I appreciate also the diversity, because we need that diversity in order to kind of clean the lens. We need people like Joellian, a Black man, a man of color, that is stepping in and saying, hey, yeah, where my people at? Where the folks at that look like me, sound like me, act like me? Where are they? I need you guys to be present. So once again, I just really tip my hat, appreciate you guys. Also, Mana, I see your comment in the chat in regard to the statewide issue for registering last night. And what I would like from all of you is for you to follow up with me, to allow me to know if there is going to be some type of a correction or adjustment or something that will be made in order to accommodate for those that could not register or get a ballot because of that issue that they had on the statewide level.
Most definitely. And, I actually did email, and I've called, our state party regarding these problems, because I have heard about it from several people. And, one of the other problems is they take a while, it seems, to get back to us. Especially seeing as how yesterday was the deadline. I see that as a failure also. There needs to be more hands-on approach from our party. If they're gonna, say that, oh, we want people to be a part of this, then I think they should, have to be there when we need help. And, it seems like they're not doing that. So,
well, not for this leg.
Yeah.
Not for this leg. So they apparently, for the other two tiers, that's cool. But for this third tier, where you've got boots on the ground folks that are running, it doesn't seem, like they're doing that. And we can make some noise on that if need be. Joellian, when is the When do we vote? So last night was the deadline to register to vote and get a ballot. And anyone that didn't get a ballot because you couldn't register, if you show proof of your registration and email it to, I'll put the email in there. If you email it, I believe it is to ADEM, CADEM. Oh, I said that. I did that wrong. So ignore the last thing I put in there. I'll put the email in the chat. If you screenshot your voter registration proof that you are a registered voter in the Democratic Party and email it, I'm saying this, you need to do it today. I'm going to email it to the email I'm going to drop in the chat. Let them know that you need your ballot. Since they were having statewide issues, that might push the limit, for getting that.
And also, if I may, I just thought of something that I've been wanting to speak about for a little bit. And it actually relates to when we made legal cannabis. One thing that I really want to advocate for is, we legalized cannabis, and we saw that, arrests within the Black and brown communities were highest when it came to cannabis charges. One thing that I want to correct is the fact, we legalized it, but at the same time, we did nothing to talk about the discrimination that people get in employment. That's something that I think is just as important. When it comes to things like solving inequality like this, it's not just one thing fixes all. We have to hit it at many different parts. And for this one of them has to be the job discrimination that we see against people, especially those in Black and brown communities. Even if they're not, say, smoking it at work or whatever, just having it in your system is enough to disqualify you from employment. And that's not right. That right there is just more inequality that has contributed to the racism that was anti-cannabis laws prior. So that's one thing I would like to solve as well, is these inequalities that we've left behind. We say we fixed something, but there's so many different facets to it that we leave it behind, and it just collects more and more inequality as we go, and we forget about it. This is one of the issues that I brought up, relating to cannabis. And it's many more than just that, but that's a big one that I was thinking of personally.
Appreciate it again. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for jumping on today, and making sure that your voice was heard. I want to, Joellen, just to kind of wrap up. So yesterday we had 3 individuals that were a part of one slate. This apparently is 7 self-identified males, 7 self-identified females. So it's 14 spaces, 7 male, 7 female. We have one slate that is made up of 14 candidates, and we also have 10 more individuals that are running independently. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? You kind of broke off for me.
Did you catch that, what I said, Joellen? Is he frozen?
He looks frozen. No, I think he's frozen.
Well,
oh, there we go.
He's frozen in a nice pose.
Oh, there he is.
Oh. I think that it's your reception or something that might be
technical difficulties.
Yes. So let me just, where I was going at is that let me move that. Cameron, you are running independently, not on a slate with others, correct?
Yeah, so there's only one slate during this election for our district. I am not on that slate. Yeah, I'm an independent candidate.
Okay, and there are 9 others. There are 24 people that can run all together, right, Joellen? You can just nod if you can't come in.
So it's 14 on the committee in total. 7 identified females and 7 identified other than females. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And how many people are running?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me bring that up real quick.
I think it was 24.
Yeah, I think it's around that number.
Okay. Alrighty. So I'm saying that because I want us to be mindful that there are 10 other individuals that are running independently, and just make sure that when you do look at your ballot that you take all of that into consideration. as you are combing through those numbers, that you do have the slate of individuals that are running together, and there are 10 other individuals on that ballot that are running as well to represent. You're not required to vote for a slate, okay? So let me show that. So you're not required to vote for a slate. You can vote for anyone, but you cannot vote for more than 7 self-identified females and 7 self-identified males, or that are not female. So just wanting to make sure that we're clear on that as we're voting. If you have any questions whatsoever in regard to this, if you inbox me, Tony McNeil, if I can't answer those questions, I promise you, you can ask Julian and them. I'm gonna connect you with the folks that can. Julian, if you got anything else that you want to add or drop in this space before we tap out?
I don't know.
You have a
My
technical.
connection's real bad, but what? Okay. I mean, if you guys are watching, I just hope that you guys feel empowered to just participate. And do a little bit of like, everyone has their candidate statement online. You know, it's like pretty simple, easy there for you. There's not really a lot to it. So for me personally, I just feel like there's a lot of weight that comes with voting for this one, because you are changing the representation that kind of oversees what you're going to be voting for. So, I mean, this is your chance to make the most direct impact right here, right now.
So translating what you just said, that all the candidates, they do have their information online, and you're able to actually, just read as far as each one of the candidates goes. His ask is that you just actually participate, that you do some research on this, and that you engage and get involved in that. Is there any just last thing that you want to say as an encouragement to those that are looking, Cameron?
Yeah, and all I want to say is this is the chance for the people to take back its party from the elites. And, just going off of what you both have said, please educate yourself on everybody. The campaign statements are on the ADEM website. We are District 13 here for Stockton, French Camp, and Tracy. And like I said before, this is our opportunity to finally make our party the party of the people, a place where not just a few, but everyone can thrive, no matter what they are, no matter what they believe, any of that. It's our time to make good on our promise as a modern democratic party to be exactly that, democratic, equitable, and one that loves everybody, not just the few. So for being here, I want to thank you, Ms. McNeil, for being here and asking me some questions. I want to thank you, Mr. Johnson, for, of course, giving me the ability to be here as well. And, I hope we can do good work when it comes to the end of this. Ballots are out for some people already. I know I got mine. And yeah, just education is key, everybody. Education is key. And thank you all.
Okay, so you guys, appreciate you guys so much for tapping in. Share this information. Remember, like City Council Member Fugazi said, you're not required to vote for a slate. I believe that every decision is a wise decision if it is an informed decision. And so you need to make your own choices and your own informed decision. You have the power through research to determine who it is that you want to represent you and your voice. And so I really fully believe that you don't need me to tell you who to vote for. All you need me to do is to tell you how to do it. So I appreciate you guys, and we'll reach out to you soon if we have any more information for you in regard to this. Peace.